أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي ربي زدني علما أجمعين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to learning the language of Quran, the Fusha language, class number 77. Before we begin our class, just a quick reminder, it's been a month since we had our last class on December. I think in December we had our last class, early December. For people who are present and people who are going to be watching this video on YouTube, I request them and I want to inform them that I lost my son. He was only 19 years of age. He passed away on December 7th. So I request everyone, and I keep requesting them, to make dua maghfirah for him. Ask him for his maghfirah. Ask that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give higher ranks in Jannatul Firdaus. Whenever you remember in your salah, please remember him in your du'as. That is my request. My own Rafi Ahmad. His name is Rafi Ahmad. Coming back to the language of Quran, we are learning about weak verbs. Weak verbs, by far, for most students who are students of learning the language, feel that this is the most difficult topic in the Arabic grammar. What we are trying to do here is provide instructions at a very high level to make it easier for students to understand, and don't go into too much details, because there are too many details that have been described by the grammarians. But still, for us to understand the weak verbs, sometimes we may have to dig a little deeper. So today is probably a bit of a hard dose. Inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us understand today's class. Pay attention. I'll try my best, and then I hope everyone else would listen carefully and practice. Verbs, as we know, 99.9% of the verbs we can trace them back to a 3-letter verbs, which is fa kalima, ain kalima and lam kalima. We know that 99.9% of the verbs can be traced back to 3-letter verbs. Nasara, daraba, samaya, karuma, there are so many of them. Qala, kana, right? There are few which are 4-letter verbs like tarjama, waswasa, but they are very few. 99.9% are 3-letter verbs. 3-letter verbs, we call them fa kalima, ain kalima and lam kalima. Okay. When it comes to the sound 3-letter verbs or fail sulasi mujarrad, that means there are no weak letters in that verb, like nasara, right? Nasara, nasara, I don't see a waw or a ya, right? So that means it's a sound verb, and then the conjugation of it will be normal conjugation. But whenever waw or a ya enters anywhere in the verb, whether it's on a fa kalima or an kalima or lam kalima, it will make the verb weak. So the conjugation will be a bit different because of the weakness. Al muta'al, al fa, al muta'al, al ain, al muta'al, al lam. Al muta'al means the weakness in the fa kalima or the ain kalima or lam kalima will make it, the conjugation will make it a bit different. In class number 76, we learned about al misal, when the weak letter, the waw or a ya, enters on the fa kalima. Then we learned about wajada yajidu. Remember, go back to class number 76 and 75 as well. I think we discussed something in 75 as well. Today we are going to learn about al ajwaf, hollow. What does that mean? Hollow. The weakness in the verb is on the ain kalima. So we learned about al misal when the weakness was in the fa kalima. Now today we are going to learn about al ajwaf. The weakness is on the ain kalima, and this is important because one of the verbs that is frequently used in Quran was qala, and today we will try to learn about qala a bit more in detail. Okay. When the weak verbs come in the Quran, the objective here in this class is we should be able to identify it, because we would not see a normal conjugation in the verbs. So how do we identify it's a verb or not, and whether it's mudare or it's smadi or it's in a madzum form or it's in a mansub form or it is an amar, right? So today we'll try to learn about ajwaf that way. We're going a little bit deeper today in terms of the verbs, something that might help us in understanding the al ajwaf. Now, when we were doing the fail sulasi mujarrad, the sound 3-letter verbs, very briefly we talked about the grammarians have discussed or divided these verbs, the sound verbs, into 6 babs, because what happens is when the verb moves from a madi to a mudare, sometimes the ain kalima get a damma, sometimes the ain kalima will get the kasra, or sometimes the ain kalima will get the fatah. So in order for people to understand whether it's a verb, grammarians have 6 babs, and we said we don't need to know that, because as long as we are identifying it's a verb, it's a sound verb, we are fine. It doesn't matter what's happening on ain kalima, whether it's a damma or a fatah or a kasra. But today we'll probably use that knowledge a bit to understand al ajwaf, the weak verbs. Okay. So the 6 babs are, I'm only going to discuss 3 babs. So nasara, one is called bab nasara. Nasara means he helped, right? He helped. Nasara yan suru. So when I say nasara yan suru, fa kalima, ain kalima, lam kalima, right? But when I'm moving into the mudare form, what's happening on the ain kalima? It gets a damma. So any verb that will get a dhamma on its end kalima will be categorized as bab nasara, but we don't have to like memorize it. Daraba yadribu, what's happening here on the end kalima? This is the end kalima, it's a kasra. Samaya yasma'u, Samaya yasma'u. What's happening in Samaya? The ayn kalima is getting the fatha. So, in order to identify the fail sulasi mujarrid or the 3-letter sound verbs, there are 3 more, but we are not going to discuss them today. Now, when it comes to the verbs, that's all for now. Just remember that there are babs, 3 babs that we are going to discuss maybe very briefly today. Let's think about nasara, something that we are going a bit deeper. We know the conjugation of nasara: nasara, nasara, nasaru, nasarat, nasarata, nasarna, nasarta, nasartuma, nasartum, nasarti, nasartuma, nasartunna, nasartu, nasarna, right? I think in class number 76 we talked about the sakin pronouns and the mutaharrik pronouns, right? So, something going, we know the conjugation, something we are going to learn a bit, going to dig a bit more deeper. When I say nasara, where is the file? Mustatir, right? Taqdeeruhu, estimation of it is huwa, right? So, it's sakin, the file is sakin. When I say nasara, where is the file? Alif. Do I see any haraka on alif? No. Nasaru, where is the file? Waw, right? Do I see any haraka on waw? No haraka on waw. Nasarat, where is the file? Ta, right? Do I see? So sorry, hidden. Mustatir, sorry. Mustatir taqdeeruhu hiya. Huma, nasarata, where is the file? Alif. Do I see any haraka? No. So, huwa or hiya, the file is mustatir. For rest of them, the file has no haraka on it. We call them sakin pronouns. Something that we never noticed before, now today we are going to notice that. Look at the lam kalima. Okay. Is it a sakin pronoun or a mutaharrik pronoun? Sakin, right? What is, there is a haraka on the lam kalima. Nasara, sakin, there is a haraka on lam kalima. Nasaru, the file, there is sakin, there is a haraka on lam kalima. Nasarat, mustatir, right? Nasarata, alif, there is haraka on lam kalima. The minute the file, which are pronouns in these conjugations, get haraka, lam kalima will start getting sakun. Okay. I know it's a bit deeper, but let's try to widen our thought process. So, as come hunna, where is the file? Na. Does na have a haraka? Yes. What happens to the lam kalima? Gas sakun. Then we are nasarna, nasarta, nasartuma, nasartum, nasarti, nasartuma, nasartunna, nasartu, nasarna. We see the lam kalima gets a sakun all the way to nasarna. Why? Because in this group the file is mutaharrik and the lam kalima will get sakun. Something we never paid attention to it, but now is perhaps the time for us to go a bit deeper. This is Bab Nasara, right. So, now we know the sakin pronouns and the mutaharrik pronouns. Whenever a noun that belongs to Bab Nasara, we will follow this die and we will put that noun in the Nasara Yansuru, and then Yansuru, and then we say Yansuru, Yansarani, Yansuruna, and we do the entire 14 pronouns. We can do the conjugation of the Mudari form as well. Let us talk about Kala. Okay, now let us come to the topic Al Ajwaf. Kala. Kala belongs to Bab Nasara. Okay, but the difference is Nasara is sound and Kala is weak. Okay, I'm going very slow now, right? I'm going very slow now. But when it comes to the sakin pronouns and the mutaharrik pronouns, let's test that. Kala means he said. Why we choose Kala? Because Kala has been used in Quran a lot, and inshallah we will apply that knowledge. Kana is also Ajwaf. Kana has been used in Quran. So, those are two very important verbs. So, we will learn about that. So, let us do this. Kala, where is the file? Mustatir. Taqdiruhu huwa. Kala alif is the file. Sakin. Qalu waw is sakin. Qalat mustatir. Mustatir, right? Come on by. Qalata alif. Sakin. So, this is your group which we call sakin pronouns, right. But the minute there is a mutaharrik pronoun comes, the lam kalima will get sakun. The lam kalima will get sakun. Right. So, remember this rule. That is why we are going a bit deeper, because previously we did not have to worry about it, because they were sound verbs, right. So, but now we are going into the weak verbs. So, something will start to happen. Hunna nasarna, yeah, but here we are saying kulna. Okay. So, rule number one, whenever there is a weak verb, and by the way, for Ajwaf only 3 babs, it can be only in one of these 3 babs: Nasara, Yansuru, Daraba, Yadribu, Samaya, Yasmau. We will practice some, but we will start with Nasara because Kala is from Nasara, right. We will practice all of them. Kala, there is an alif there, right. Alif there. So, what do we mean by that? Whether there is a waw or a ya hiding behind it. We know that, right. We already learned this concept, but we will come to that topic later. What is on alif? Sakun, right. Sakun. Kala, there is a sakun there. So, when there is a mutaharrik pronoun joins this Kala, what will happen to the lam kalima? It will get a sakun. Okay, it will get a sakun. So, once this get a sakun, there are 2 sakuns together. Okay. Now, मैं थोड़ा सा ये ऊपर से That's okay. Now, so as soon as the Nunu Niswa joins Kala, as soon as the Nunu Niswa joins Kala, it will get a sakun. Now we have a problem, because there are 2 sakuns. Alif has a sakun and the lam kalima has a sakun. That's why weak verbs are a bit different, right? So this is a phenomena called iltaqai sakinani, the meeting of the two sukoons. And in Arabic language, whenever two letters coming together, they both have sukoons, we cannot pronunciate them. So what happens? The weak letter has to drop. That's exactly what's happening here, because noon is the mutaharrik pronoun and it will make lam kalima madzum, or will have a sakun on it, and the alif has to drop. So I have to drop the alif. So what remains is fa kalima and lam kalima only. Fa kalima and lam kalima only. Is it making sense, Kamran bhai? Yeah. That's one change that's happening. So imagine instead of kala, it's kana. Then it will become kunna, because alif has to go away, because there are two noons, and then we'll do that, the two noons together, then we put a shadda there, so it's become kunna, right? But alif has to go away, because now the phenomena is happening because iltaqai sakinani, the meeting of the two sukoons. So that's why in the weak verbs the conjugation will be a bit different. It is not going to be normal like nasarna, it will be kulna. The second thing that's going to happen now, since kala belongs to bab nasara, the fa kalima will get the dhamma. So any nouns, and there is an exercise in the book, we will do that. Any noun, any verb that belongs to bab nasara and it's a weak verb, the fa kalima will get the dhamma on in the madi at hunna, because now qala, qalu, qalat, qalata, everything is fine, because we have sakin pronouns, and sakin pronouns will not make the lam kalima sakun, right? So everything is fine, we are still getting the fatha, but immediately when we comes to mutaharrik pronoun has the power to make lam kalima sakun, and that's when things start to change for al ajwaf. Why we are learning this thing? So that when these verbs come in the Quran, we should be able to identify them, should not get confused. So now once we know how kulna comes, because alif is dropped because of the iltaqai sakinani, now we are in 401, kulna, kulta, kultuma, kultum, kulti, kultuma, kultunna, kultu, and kulna. Wa is kulna lil malaikati isjudu li adama fasajadu illa iblis aba wastakbara wa kana minal kafirin. Wa is kulna, we said, when we said, kulna, we said, nahnu, right? And there are many different forms of qala has been used, and many weak verbs have been used. Clear? Okay, alhamdulillah. We are only going to discuss nasara, but then we'll come to daraba and yadribu. Very easy. Say once we understand nasara, then these two will be similar concept with small little change, very small little change. So now we know why we have a dhamma on the fa kalima and why it's kulna. Mutaharrik pronouns all the way through kulna, because it belongs to bab nasara. Now the question comes into people's mind who are learning, how do I know that a verb belongs to bab nasara or daraba or samaya? You don't have to worry about it. Okay, if you're really curious, go to the dictionary. Dictionary will tell you what bab it belongs to. We don't have to actually memorize it if somebody wants to do the research there. But the point here is, when the weak verb comes in the Quran, we should at least know the characteristics of the weak verb, right? We know the characteristics, so we can pull out, okay, ta, tuma, tum, ti, tuma, tuna, so they are there, and there is a dhamma on fa kalima, so this is a weak verb. Then your research will start to, and you know why it is like that, because of the concept we just learned, and then we will try to understand it better, do our research. Yeah, so this is the second group. Nasara yansuru. Nasara yansuru. So technically, if qala belongs to nasara, what should technically be the mudare form? Yakvulu, yansuru, yakvulu, right? But then we don't say yakvulu, we say yaqulu. We say yaqulu, right? Yaqulu. Why? Because it's al ajwaf, al muta'al al ain, which means the weakness is in the ain kalima. Remember one thing, whenever there is a waw, it's always compatible with dhamma. So the letter behind, this is a rule we learned, whenever there is a letter behind the waw, it will get a dhamma. Ali bhai, it will get a dhamma. So when I say yaqvulu, does it make sense? No, because the letter behind it, it's the fa kalima got the sakun, but technically it should get a dhamma because waw needs, the letter behind the waw should get the dhamma, right? So what happens is this dhamma will move into the fa kalima and we say yaqulu. Now stop here for a second. Qala yaqulu, what happens here? The ain kalima is now a waw. We know that hiding behind the alif is either a waw or a ya, and most of the time, 99% of the time, when the verb moves from madi to mudare, that original letter will manifest itself. Okay, will manifest itself. So when I say qala, what is the masdar? What is the original? Qawala. So what is hiding behind the alif? Wow. So now qala, when I'm moving from a madi to mudare, is it too much, Kamran bhai? It's okay, very good, alhamdulillah. When the madi is moving into mudare, the waw will manifest itself. Will manifest itself. Say no, I'm in the mudare form. I don't need to hide anymore. I need to come out. Okay, qala, qawala. Similarly, when you say ba'a, baya'a, what is hiding behind alif? The ya. Nama, navima. What is hiding behind the alif? Waw. Okay, so we have to go to the original, but we don't need to know if we are really curious. But once we get the mudare form, we know it's weak, we know it's al ajwaf, and then either it's a waw or a ya standing behind it, except for bab sameya. I'm just putting a small caveat there, because alif, and in the mudare form the alif will remain the same, alif will not go away, but that's something we'll learn in the next class, inshallah. Qala yaqulu. So now we know why qala becomes yaqulu. Why? Because the original waw will come out, which is hiding behind the alif, will come out, and the waw is compatible with dhamma. So we say instead of saying yaqvulu, we say yaqulu. Now once we get the first huwa form, then it becomes easy. Okay, then it becomes easy. Yaqulu, yaqulani, yaquluna, taqulu, taqulani, yaqulna, taqulu, taqulani, taquluna, taqulina, taqulani, taqulna, aqulu, naqulu. Now ready for another small little dose? It's not tough, since we already know the sakin and the mutaharrik pronouns. Yaqulu, where is the file? Mustatir. Taqdiruhu huwa. What is on the lam kalima? There is a haraka there. So this is sakin. Yaqulani. Where is the file? Alif. Alif. Is this sakin or mutaharrik? Sakin, sakin, sakin. Yeah. So that's why the lam kalima has the haraka there. Okay. Yakuluna. Where is the file? Wow. Is this sakin or mutaharrik? Sakin. Do I see the haraka on the lam kalima? Yes. Taqulu. File mustatir. Taqdiruhu hiya. Do I see a haraka on the lam kalima? That rule is universal now. Okay. Now we know mutaharrik pronouns and sakin pronouns. Taqulani. Where is the file? Alif. Alif. Mutaharrik or sakin? Sakin. Do I see the haraka on lam kalima? Yes. It's a bit deeper. It's nice to know these things. Yakulna. Yakulna. Hunna. Yakulna. Where is the file? Noon. Noon is the file. Noon or niswa is the file. Is it mutaharrik or sakin? Mutaharrik. What happens to the lam kalima? Taqulu. Where is the file? Mustatir. Taqdiruhu anta. Taqulani. Same thing. Taquluna. Same thing. Waw and alif, they are both sakin, and the lam kalima has got the haraka. Taqulina. Where is the file? Ya. Ya is the file. There is a haraka on the lam kalima. Taqulani. Taqulna. What happens to taqulna? Where is the file? Noon niswa is the file. Is it mutaharrik or sakin? Mutaharrik. Lam kalima will get the sakun, right? Aqulu, naqulu, mustatir. So in the madi form, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sakin and 9 mutaharrik. In mudare we have 2 mutaharrik and 12 sakin. Right? Why we need to know these things? Because in order for us to understand Ajuba a bit better, why Nasarna will become Qulna, and why things are changing, why Qala becomes Qulna at Hunna, that's why it's important for us to understand this, so that we know a bit better understanding, right? So in the Madi form we have 5 sakin, 9 mutaharrik. In Mudare we have 2 mutaharrik and 12 sakin. Alhamdulillah. Moving forward. Shajil bhai, make sense? Alhamdulillah. When I say Yakulu, he said, he says, because it's mudari, right? When I say Taquluna, you all say, right? So now we know, now we can make sense. Taqulina, you say in feminine, right? She is second person. So now we know. So once we know the conjugation, we can, and we read the Quran, and one of these forms will come, we can actually tell who's saying, whether it's jama, it's muzakkar, it's muannas, it's feminine, it's masculine, it's singular, it's third person, it's first person. So it makes sense for us. Qulna means we said, first person. So Allah subhanahu said is qulna lil malaikati, right? And there are other things too. Now, do we know lam? We know lam, right? We know lam. What will happen when lams joins the mudare, right? After lam always comes exactly the mudare form of the verb, and then lam will make it madzum. Will make it madzum, right? So since we are talking about al ajwaf here, right? Let's say lams comes and join yakulu. Okay, lam comes and join yakulu. What is the first thing lam will do? It will make yakulu madzum. So this will become the last letter will get the sakun. Now what's happening here? Iltaqa sakinani. the meeting of the two sukoons, and we know in Arabic language two letters coming together having the sukoon cannot pronunciate. Who has to drop? Lam has to drop or waw has to drop? Why? Because it's weak verb, weak letter, exactly. So it becomes Yakul. So see, when lam comes and there is a weak verbs coming after lam, from our knowledge we can identify in Quran then this is in a majzoom form, Yakul. Now lam comes and say I am going to attach myself to Yakulani. Is this marfu Yakulani? Yes. What is the sign of it being marfu? Noon. So we drop the noon, then become lam Yakula, lam Yakul, lam Yakula. Okay. The concept of sakin and mutaharrik pronoun still holds true in lam form too, because we are only what we are doing, we are only changing the signs of it being either from marfu to majzoom. That's all we are doing, but the concept of sakin pronouns and mutaharrik pronoun still holds true, because we are not changing that, we are not touching that in our surgery, we are not touching that phenomena, we are only making from marfu to majzoom. That's all we are doing. Lam Yakula, lam Yakulu, lam Taqul. What happens here? Same thing, iltiqa sakin, lam Taqul, lam Taqula, lam Yakulna. Now Yakulna, Yakulna, mabni. We know hunna and antunna are mabni, right? No change. Lam Taqul, lam Taqula, lam Taqulu, lam Taquli. We just drop the noon and make it majzoom. Lam Taqula, lam Taqulna, lam Aqul, lam Naqul. Make sense? So when I say lam Yakul, what does that mean? Like lam yalid wa lam yulad. So what is lam? Harfun nafiyin, harfun nafiyin wa jazmin wa qalbin. Right? So it's a negation. Lam is negation in the past continuous technically. Qalbin, it will change the meaning of the mudare into past, qalbin, to overturn, but jasmin, and it will make the mudare majzoom. So remember always, if you remember these three things, it will be helpful: nafiyan, jasmin, qalbin, right? So when I say lam Yakul, he did not say. Did not. Past. It's a past.
Although it's
Yeah.
mudare, but it
Yeah. Oh, qalbin. Now मैंने मुझे confuse कर दिया. That's okay. That's okay. Because he's always right when it comes to English grammar. So I was thinking, I doubted myself. I studied doubted myself. Yeah, he did not say. And then we start applying. You did not say, we did not say, I did not say, or so this is what's happening. So this is not normal. Yakul is not normal. Why? Because Yakulu will becomes Yakul. But we know why these changes are happening, because iltiqai sakinani, right? That's why. But the concept of sakin and mutaharrik pronoun will remain. It's good knowledge to have about sakin and mutaharrik, so that we don't get confused when it comes to the understanding of the Quran. Lan, we're not going into too much detail. Comes lan, and then we'll just finish that, and then because one dose at a time. This is a very, we have 15 minutes, 20 minutes, but we'll take small doses at a time, okay? Because this is obviously a difficult, tough topic to understand. Then comes lan. What is lan? Nafiyan wa nasbin, right? Letter, a particle of negation will make the mudare mansub, right? In future. Lan tanalul birra, okay? Hatta tunfiqu mimma tuhibbun. so when lam comes, lam made mudare majzoom, and then yaqulu will becomes yaqul. Why? Because the phenomena of iltiqai sakinani came, and then we applied that knowledge here. When lan comes and joins yaqulu, what will happen to yaqulu? It will make it mansub. Mansub. Is this marfu yaqulu? Yes, marfu because of the dhamma. We have already done that, right? Lan comes, it will make lam yaqula. No further change is required because this is not a lan will not make the mudare majzoom. So the only thing we are doing is either we are making dhamma into a fatha, or we will just remove the noon to make it mansub. That's all we are doing. The concept of sakin and mutaharrik pronoun still holds true in lan. Okay. So lam yaqula, sorry, lan yaqula, lan yaqula, lan yaqulu. What's happening here? We are dropping the noons, right? Because to make it mansub. Yaqulu, taqulu, taqula, taqula, yaqulna. Now yaqulna and taqulna mabni. We always know they're always going to be mabni. Taqula, taqula, taqulu, taquli. Why taqulina? Now see, imagine this is different. This is different. This is different. What else is different? The rest of them are.
The second last.
Oh yeah, this one and this one is different. Okay, these one are different. Otherwise, the majzoom form and the mansub form are the same. But my mind knows if lan comes, my mind knows it's in a majzoom form, right? But for these one now. There has to be one more. 5 in your pocket. हाँ वही मैं कह रहा हूँ. 5 हो गए ना? हाँ हो गए. Okay 5. These are 5 in your pocket. That's what I was gonna say. Remember 5 in your pocket? Those 5 in your pocket will get the change. Otherwise, the mansub form and the mansub form are similar. In ajwaf. Okay. We'll do more exercises. There are exercises in the book, but this is just getting to know the ajwaf form. Then comes fail amar, the verb of an order, and we know the verb of order is only going to be anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna. Taqulu, qul. How? We already know, we already done this exercise. What is the first thing that we need to do when we make an amar out of mudare? We take the sign of mudare out. Sign of mudare out. What is the sign of mudare in taqulu? Ta. So I just take ta off. What's removed? Qulu. Right? What is the second thing that I have to do? Make it majzoom. So I make it majzoom. Iltiqai sakinani. Right? Which one has to drop? Waw has to drop. Why? Because it is. What remains is qul. Kana, yakunu, 5 in your pocket, takunu, takunu, akunu, nakunu. Right? So when it comes to takunu, anta, what remains? Kul, kun. Kun is in the Quran. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all he has to say, kun fayakun. Kun, order. All he has to do is just say, order it, and so be it. It will happen. It will become. We'll do Kana in the next class, inshallah. Kana is important too, right? Kana comes in the Quran most of the time. So now, taqulani, first thing, remove the sign of it being mudare. Second thing, remove the noon, qula. Qul, qula, qulu, quli, qula, qulna. What happens here? Taqulna, all we have to do is remove the sign of it being mudare and it will become qulna.
Inshallah, we can bring examples for qul
and kana. Yeah, inshallah, we'll do that. but we're only doing mudare, sorry, bab nasara here. But once we understand this chart here, this is easy. Very small will change, and I'll tell you what that is. So qala, qawala, ba'a, baya'a, nama, navima, we know what's hiding behind the alif, right? We have done this thing. We have done fi'l amar, lan, lam, mudare and madi. Are there any questions? We may have to repeat this lecture. We have to revise this lecture or go on YouTube and see it if whenever, because this is a hard dose. This is a little bit of a hard dose. The concept of sakin pronouns and the mutaharrik pronouns and al-ajwaf is weak. So what changes are happening in mudare form, changes are happening in madzum form, mansub form, and amar. But with practice, we'll inshallah grasp this knowledge. Okay. Now kana, let's do for the sake of it, let's do kana before we actually go into daraba and samia. Kana is from bab nasara. So imagine kana, instead of kala we are saying kana. So let's imagine that. Now let's just apply our imagination, our brains here, and try to conjugate kana. Okay. Kana, kana, kanu, kanat, kanata, kunna, kunta, kuntuma, kuntum, kunti, kuntuma, kuntunna, kuntu, kunna. Are these very familiar words in the Quran? Kuntum, kuntu, right? They come in the Quran almost on every page. Almost on every page, these comes. We know the sakin pronouns. We know the mutaharrik pronouns. We know kana is al-ajwaf. We know kana belongs to bab nasara. That's why the fa kalima is getting the dhamma. Instead of kulta, I say kunta, kuntu, kunna, kunti, kuntum. Kuntum comes in Quran all the time, right? So now it becomes easier. So similarly, there is an exercise in the we will do it. There are many other verbs, but kana and kala are very important because they are repeatedly come in the Quran. Imagine yourself and then put kana and then bring it into mudare form. Kana yakunu, yakunani, yakununa. You can do the entire 40. So I would suggest, having this chart, try to do the conjugation of kana at home. We will do it in the next class, just very quickly if we have time, but then using this chart, do the conjugation of kana. Okay, that's important too. Then use lam with kana, then use lan with kana, then do the amar form. Same rules that we learned in kala will apply into kana, because kana is an ajwaf and it belongs to bab nasara. So the fa kalima will get the dhamma. Right? In nasara it will remain the fatha, 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 but now since we are dealing in al-ajwaf, the weak verbs, the fa kalima will get the dhamma. Right? Now, what if this is, now we understand this and we have 10 minutes left. Last thing, what if the verb al-ajwaf is from bab daraba? Daraba yadribu, right? So instead of, so ba'a, for example, is the ajwaf form which belongs to bab daraba, right? So let's put let's imagine there is a daraba here. daraba, daraba, darabu, darabat, darabata, darabna, darabta, darabtum, darabti, darabtuma, darabtunna, darabtu, darabna, all the 14 ones, right? We daraba we have done so many times. So daraba. Put ba'a here. Let's do the madi first. Ba'a, ba'a, ba'u, ba'at, ba'ata. Right? Why? Because sakin pronouns, no changes are happening. No changes are happening. Similarly, in here, no changes are happening. Fata, 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 fata. Now comes hunna. It will become be'na. So instead of getting the dhamma, it will get the kasra. That's the only change that's going to happen. Remember that. See, that's why I'm saying. I mean, once we understand nasara, then it becomes, instead of dhamma, if the verb belongs to daraba, then the fa kalima will get the kasra. Be'na, betuma, betum, beti, like the entire thing. Betu, be'na. And same thing will happen if it's samaya. Samaya, yasma'u, nama. So now let's put nama here. Nama, nama, namu, namat, namata, sakin, nimna. Nimna, nimta, nimtuma, nimtum, nimti, nimtuma, nimtunna, nimtu, nimna. So rule of thumb, if it's bab nasara, it will get the dhamma. Otherwise, in both cases, it will get the kasra in the madi form only. We are not going into mudare form here. Mudare form will get to it in the next class, right? Because things will start to change. Daraba yadribu ba'a yabi'u. Okay, let's do it. So remember we say yaqvulu, nasara, yansuru, yaqvulu, but then we know the vav is compatible with dhamma, so the letter behind vav will get the dhamma. So ba'a yabiu, same thing, ya is compatible with kasra. So same phenomena, daraba yadribu ba'a yab yi'u, but then the letter behind ya should get the kasra, so we say yabiu. Same concept, yabi, and then we start doing the yabiu, yabi'ani, yabi'una, same thing. We'll do the entire 14. So practice that at home. Practice will make it perfect. Okay, and then start putting lam there, and start putting. Once we know the mudare form, then lam, lan, and mudare is easy. How to make it mazum, how to make it mansub, how to make the mudare. Once we know, it's easy. So same concept, but then comes samaya, yasmau. Samaya, yasmau. If the verb is ajwaf and it's coming into bab samaya, for example, nama, yanamu. Nama, yanamu. In this bab, the original vav will not manifest itself, but there are only few. Okay, you don't have to worry about it. Nama, yanamu, khafa, yakhafu. So there are few that we can practice in the samaya, yes, ma'u. What will happen? Nama, yan, amu. But then remember, similar to vav is compatible with dhamma, ya compatible with kasra, alif is always compatible with fatah. So same phenomena will happen. Instead of yan amu, it will be yanamu, because the letter behind alif will get the fatah. So this thing, always keep that in mind. Whenever there is a vav, there has to be a dhamma. The letter behind vav will get the dhamma. If there is a ya, the letter behind the ya should get the kasra, and if there is a letter alif, the letter behind should get the fatah. And that's exactly what's been demonstrated here. Nama, yanamu. The only difference in bab samaya is that the original the vav will not manifest itself. Nama, that's it. This is all we need to know about ajwaf. This is all we need to know about ajwaf. Alhamdulillah. We'll do more exercises. We'll do the lesson. We'll do the exercises. We'll solidify our and then Nambai maybe will bring some ayahs from the Quran as well. I know this is a tough topic because weak verbs are one of the toughest topics in Arabic grammar, but I hope this is there's a lot more things going on in here. We are not touching them. From our perspective, keep it simple. Keep it very simple. Don't go too many into there are too many details in it, but we don't want to go there. This is all we need to know. So I think this lecture is important. Class number 77. Repeat it. Go on YouTube. Watch it. Inshallah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us understand the language of Quran. Ameen summa ameen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us when we memorize the Quran and when we recite the Quran and then we listen to the Quran, understand it in its original Fusha language rather than relying on the translation, because translation are different. Right? Translation cannot justify the emotions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if we want to understand the emotions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we need to learn the Fusha language. There is no other way, and Quran cannot impact our hearts until we learn the language, period. Right? A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha laha ma kasabat wa 'alayha maktasabat. Rabbana la tu'akhizna in nasina aw akhtana. Rabbana wa la tahmil alayna isran kama hamaltahu 'ala allazina min qablina. Rabbana wa la tuhammilna ma la taqata lana bih. Wa'fu anna waghfir lana warhamna anta maulana fansurna 'alal qawmil kafirin. One last reminder, please remember Rafi Ahmed in your du'as, and may Allah ta'ala subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive his small and big sins and then enter him into Jannatul Firdaus and raise his ranks in Jannah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.